Have you ever really stopped to think about the little engines running silently all around you? I'm talking about the ones in your fan, your air conditioner, even your fridge. These electric motors, they're pretty much the unsung heroes of our daily lives. So we're going to dive into this, because there's a quiet revolution happening inside these machines that could literally be saving you a ton of money.
And yeah, at first glance, they might all look kind of the same, right? Just simple motors. But what we've got here are three totally different technologies: AC, DC, and the newer EC motor. Now, they all do the same basic job, sure, but how they do it, that's a completely different story. And trust me, those differences have a huge impact on everything from your energy bill to how comfortable you are.
So that leads to the big question, doesn't it? One of these is basically last century tech, way less efficient, and, you guessed it, way more expensive to run. So which one of these motors is the one quietly driving up your electricity costs? Well, let's find out.
Okay, so before we can really get the genius of the new stuff, we gotta go back in time a little. We need to look at the originals, the old guard, the two technologies that have been powering our world for, well, over a century now, the AC and DC motors.
And listen, when I say old guard, I am not kidding. The DC motor, that goes all the way back to the 1830s. And the AC motor, the one that basically powered the entire 20th century, that showed up in 1888. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, the Eiffel Tower was built in that same decade. We are talking about some seriously foundational tech here.
So what's the real difference between them? Okay, here's probably the easiest way to think about it. The AC motor, it's like a simple light switch. It's either on, at full blast, or it's off. That's it. Simple, powerful, a real workhorse. Now the DC motor, on the other hand, that's more like a dimmer switch. It gives you really good control over the speed, but there's always a but, right? That control comes with a catch. And yeah, here's that catch, those trade-offs. For the simple AC motor, it's super inefficient when it's not running at full tilt. And all that inefficiency, it just turns into wasted heat and a lot of noise. Now the DC motor, the problem is this physical part inside called brushes. They literally rub together, they wear out over time, which means high maintenance, and they lose energy just from friction. So you see the problem here, right? Neither one is perfect.
Okay, but this is where the story gets really interesting. Because now that we know the problems with the old guard, the stage is totally set for a new hero to arrive. And that hero is the EC motor.
So what in the world is an EC motor? Well, just think of it like a super smart hybrid. At its core, it's a brushless DC motor, which means you get all that amazing control and efficiency, but, and this is the brilliant part, it's designed to run on the standard AC power you've got in your house. It's literally the best of both worlds.
Okay, so how does it pull off this little magic trick? It's actually a pretty simple three-step process. First, it takes the regular AC power right from your wall outlet. Then, an internal gizmo called a rectifier converts that AC power into the much more efficient DC power. And finally, and this right here is the secret sauce, a built-in smart controller takes that DC power and uses it to manage the motor's speed and torque with incredible precision.
And that really is the key takeaway here. With an old AC motor, if you wanted to control its speed, you'd need this big, clunky separate box. But with an EC motor, nope, all that intelligence is built right in. It's just one compact, super efficient, and really smart system right out of the box.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the tech, but talk is cheap. Let's look at the numbers, the hard data. Because this is where the EC motor just absolutely leaves the competition in the dust. Just let this sink in for a second. 30 to 70%. That's how much energy an EC motor can save you compared to a traditional AC motor doing the exact same job. That is a massive difference. And that difference translates directly into real money saved on your energy bill month after month.
So you're probably wondering, where do these huge savings even come from? Well, this chart explains it perfectly. Just think about the fan in your air conditioner, right? It doesn't need to be running at full blast 24/7. Most of the time, it's running at a lower speed. That's what we call part load operation. And as you can see, this is where an old AC motor just becomes an energy hog. It's incredibly wasteful. But the EC motor, it stays super efficient, just sipping energy, even when it's just kind of coasting along.
And all of that efficiency adds up to a much, much lower total cost over the motor's entire lifetime. What we're talking about here is OPEX, which is just a fancy term for operational expenditure, basically everything you spend on electricity and maintenance to keep it running. And you can see it right there. The OPEX for an EC motor is just dramatically lower. Yeah, it might cost a little more upfront, but it pays for itself so quickly in energy savings.
Okay, so let's just put this all together in one place. This table really gives us the final verdict. When you look at part load efficiency, how much maintenance it needs, the noise and heat it creates, and the total cost to own it, the EC motor is the hands-down winner. It's just smarter, more advanced engineering, plain and simple.
So, does this mean that the old AC and DC motors are totally obsolete, headed for the museum? Well, not necessarily. It really is all about picking the right tool for the right job. Look, an AC motor is still a great, dead simple choice for things that just need to turn on and run at one constant speed, no questions asked. And a little DC motor is perfect for things like portable power tools where you need that variable torque. But for pretty much any application that needs to change its speed and run efficiently for hours on end, we're talking modern HVAC systems, ventilation fans, pumps, the EC motor is, without a doubt, the superior choice.
So really, the takeaway here is pretty clear. As we all start looking for more energy-conscious solutions in our homes and for our appliances, the EC motor, well, it isn't just some minor upgrade. It really is the future. It's what's going to be powering our world more efficiently and a lot more quietly.
And that kind of leaves you with one last thought, doesn't it? We're always looking for these big, obvious ways to save energy. Putting solar panels on the roof, getting new windows. But what if some of the biggest energy savings of all are hidden away deep inside the machines we use every single day? It really is a quiet revolution, happening one tiny motor at a time.